Next, we are going to review prime factorization. A prime number is a number whose only factors are 1 in itself. For example, the only way to get the number 2 is to do 2 times 1. The only way to get the number 3 is to do 3 times 1. 5 is just 5 times 1. 7, the only way to get 7 is 7 times 1, and so on. Numbers that aren't prime are called composite. For example, the number 4 can be written as 4 times 1. However, it can also be written as 2 times 2. So since there's another way to get 4 other than 4 times 1, the number is composite, not prime. Another way to get 6 besides 6 times 1 is 3 times 2. So again, this number is composite. The number 24 is 24 times 1. We could also do 12 times 2, 8 times 3, 6 times 4. So again, 24 is not prime. And then 81, there are other ways besides 81 times 1. Can you think of some other ways to get 81 besides 81 times 1? The one that comes to mind quickly is 9 times 9. And if we can come up with another way, then it is not prime. Now we are going to practice doing prime factorization with a factor tree. So if we want to find the prime factorization of the number 90, what we need to do is come up with two numbers that when we multiply together we get 90. Now when I see a number that ends in 0, I think, oh, it's divisible by 10. 10 times 9 is 90. Now, if we get a number that's prime, we circle it. Is 10 prime? 10 is not prime, because to get 10, we could do 5 times 2. Is 9 prime? Nope, 9 isn't prime either. So we're going to go on to the next step. The next step is to take 10 and come up with two numbers that multiply to be 10. 5 times 2 is 10. Is 5 prime? Yes, 5 is prime. The only way to get 5 is 5 times 1, so we're going to circle it. Is 2 prime? Yes, 2 is prime. Now we're going to go over to the 9. We also need to come up with ways to multiply together to get 9. What times what would be 9? Well, I know 9 is 3 times 3. Is 3 prime? Yes, 3 is prime, so I'm going to circle it. 3 is prime, so I'm going to circle it. Once I've gotten to the bottom and all my numbers are circled, I'm going to write this out as a multiplication problem from least to greatest. So I'm going to write 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. And that is my prime factorization. Another way to write this would also be 2 times 3 to the second power times 5. There is a way that we can check to see if we did this correct. We'll double check. Is 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 equal to 90? Well, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. And 18 times 5 is 90. So, we did the problem correctly. Double check. We have prime numbers 2, 3, 3, 5. Yes, those are all prime. So 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 is the prime factorization of 90. Example 2. Find the prime factorization of 240. I would like you to go ahead, try this problem on your own. Pause the video, and when you are ready to check your answer, press play. Again, I see 240 ends in a 0, so I know that this is 10 times 24. You could have picked some other ones. Some of you might do 120 times 2. Some of you might do 80 times 3. It's going to work out no matter which way you do it. Okay. 10 is not prime, so I'm not going to circle 10. I'm going to do 10 is 5 times 2. 5 is prime, so I'm going to circle it. 2 is prime, so I'm going to circle it. 24. Well, I know 24 is 6 times 4. 6 is not prime. 4 is not prime. So I need to break apart 6 now. How do I multiply together to get 6? 6 is 3 times 2. 3 is prime, so I circle it. 2 is prime, so I circle it. The number 4. What would multiply together to be 4? 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. 2 is prime, so I circle it. 2 is prime, so I circle it. Now I'm going to write out my answer from least to greatest. I have 4 2's, so I'm going to write it as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times, next one would be 3, and then the next one would be 5. So my answer is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, or 2 to the 4th power times 3 times 5. Now to check to see if I did that correctly, I can always multiply those numbers back out and make sure if I plug them in my calculator or if I multiply them out, I should get 240. If I don't, that means I did something wrong and I need to go back and redo the problem. Last, I want to show you a trick for dealing with some multiple choice problems. This multiple choice problem asks, which of the following is the prime factorization of 80? Before I make a factor tree or anything, I'm going to start off by looking at my choices. If any of my choices have numbers that aren't prime as part of the answer, that means that it's not going to be the prime factorization. So let's look at A. If we look at A, 2 is prime, 2 is prime, 2 is prime, but then look at the number 10. 10 is not a prime number because 5 times 2 is 10. So A cannot be the prime factorization because it has a number in it that's not prime. Let's look at B. B is 2 times 5 times 8. Well, 2 is prime, 5 is prime, 8. Is 8 prime? Well, 8 can also be written as 4 times 2, so 8 is not prime, so we can actually cross that out. Already we've eliminated half the choices. Check C. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Do we see any numbers that aren't prime there? No, all these numbers are prime, so that's definitely a possibility. What about D? D is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. All of those numbers are prime, so that's also a possibility. Now, if you don't want to make a tree, or if you forgot how to make a tree, there's another way to figure out if we have the right answer. These have some different numbers, so we're just going to actually multiply it out and see if we get 80. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 2, that's 4, times 2 is 8, 8 times 3 is 24, and then we're going to do 24 times 5, and if we do 24 times 5, let's see, 5 times 4 is 20, carry the 2, 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, I get 120. Is 120 what I was looking for? No, I was trying to find the prime factorization of 80. If my numbers multiply to be 120, that's not a good answer. Before we select D, let's just double check and make sure that's good. So 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, and then we're going to do 16 times 5. So if we do 16 times 5, let's see, 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, so I get 80. Is that what I was looking for? Yes. So my answer is going to be choice D. So I was able to answer this multiple choice problem without actually doing a factor tree. I eliminated all the poor choices and picked a choice that ended up being the correct answer.